One of League's most legendary players has been dropped by his team after a disastrous end to the season. Impact, a world champion all the way back in Season 3 and longtime star of the North American League, is off of Team Liquid.
5 minutes in, FlyQuest say we need to continue to activate this advantage, and it's going to be tanks for Flame. He gets out safely. Santorin now heating up the turret down to 100 HP. Impact left and right. What a dance-off!
There are only two teams in NA whose seasons aren't over, 100 Thieves and FlyQuest, and as Papa Smithy said on Twitter, with the former pulling out of the LTA next year, every player not currently signed to his team are effectively in off-season mode already. And to be honest, for a lot of the league's most storied names, it's going to be hard to see 2025 as a success. Liquid, Cloud9, even up-and-coming squads like Shopify Rebellion are all pretty likely to make some changes. And if North America, or the LTA North as we're calling it these days, is actually going to make some kind of comeback, if they're going to build new fans and maybe even finally make a dent internationally, I think a lot needs to change.
Before we get into today's video, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Gigabyte. Experience a whole new level of gaming with the Gigabyte MO32U monitor. Its 32-inch QD OLED display delivers stunning 4K visuals with exquisite color vibrancy and deep contrasts. But of course, looks aren't everything. With a lightning-fast 0.03 millisecond response time and 165Hz refresh rate, you also get the ultra-smooth, lag-free gameplay every gamer dreams of. Plus, HDMI 2.1 support ensures you're ready for that next-gen console dominance. So, if you're looking to elevate your gaming setup without breaking the bank, check out the Gigabyte MO32U gaming monitor over at Amazon. And now let's get back to today's video.
Okay, so let's start with Team Liquid and with Impact. After 6 domestic trophies with the org and an MVP, Impact is leaving his longtime home. In his farewell video, he said that he'd lost some of the motivation he previously felt to grind a game that he's played professionally for more than a decade.
I think I'm better take break, like 1-2 months, and think what I want to do, because I feel like this year especially, I lose my passion too much.
That's a sentiment that was echoed by the team's coach Spawn in a brutally honest behind-the-scenes video the team recently posted about the end of their season. And it's understandable that the staff and players on Liquid are feeling pressure and frustration. They had a pretty heartbreaking Worlds last year, came back to North America to win Split 1 and qualify for First Stand. But then they fell dramatically short of their expectations for the rest of the year. We've seen a lot of strong teams break up over less. For his part, Impact seems cheerful and optimistic about the future, whether or not we see him playing for Tier 1 teams or he moves on to another role behind the scenes. And to be fair, he's been playing a long time. He's the last member of the 2013 Worlds winning SKT to still be playing professionally, except Faker himself. Very few pros see the longevity that Impact has. But all this said, if you've been following League for a long time, you probably feel like you've seen this movie before. A strong NA team deals with motivation issues, falls off a bit, and doesn't make Worlds. They drop a couple of players and shuffle the roster around with an eye to make a serious run internationally, and then, a year or two later, they do it again, and that pattern is really what I'd like to talk about today. But first, let's step back for a second. For years, NA has been a bit of a joke in International League, and most of the region's top teams have spent over a decade trying to sort out an answer to that problem. Lately, FlyQuest has made a dent. They eliminated G2 from MSI and have played some really close best of fives against the best teams in the world. And there's no way the league can be successful with just one strong team. For FlyQuest and the rest of North America to progress, the league needs to get stronger. So let's talk about how that might happen. Going all the way back to 2014, the LCS loved to import flashy players from primarily Europe and Korea. A lot of the biggest names in the history of the league got their start playing elsewhere. Bjergsen, Jensen, Impact, CoreJJ. It's a really long list. There's a lot of reasons for this. Of the major regions that play league competitively, North America has long had the smallest player base. Today, there's about 1.5 million ranked accounts actively playing. EU West has more than double at around 3.5 million, Korea has 3.4 million, China's server information isn't public in the same way, but I promise you they have a lot of players. And that's been the dynamic for years now. If you assume that naturally some small percentage of ranked players will eventually take the game seriously enough to go pro, NA just doesn't have as many options. So for years, the theory of some of the best teams in the region has been to bring strong players from other regions. And look, sometimes this has worked. I'm not here to say that there's no place for stars like Impact in the league. week, but I am here to say that North America needs to get a lot more serious about developing homegrown talent, or it's never going to make progress as a region. Now, I love Impact, and a lot of the other players we've mentioned. Hell, I was a die-hard TSM fan for years back in the day. Bjergsen meant a lot to me as a pro. But it just feels like after all these years, there's this obvious flaw in the way North America recruits imports. It's just not getting the best players in the world. Not anymore. There was a time when it was one of the wealthiest regions and could offer incredible talent, more money than many Korean clubs. Core JJ, fresh off a world championship, comes to mind. But those days are long gone. Around the world, esports teams are struggling to attract funding like they could have 7 or 8 years ago. Now, the best up-and-coming talent in Korea and China are going to play in Korea and China because there's no massive financial incentive to leave. Why deal with the culture shock and go to play in a less competitive region? Even EU has been struggling internationally lately, and Koi took a page out of NA's book and poached Jojo Pyun, one of the best NA-grown talents we have seen in years. So if the dream of every NA org is to finally beat the best Korean and Chinese teams, how are you going to do that if you don't have the best Korean or Chinese players? At this point, it almost feels like we're hoping the next Faker gets missed by scouts for every team in Korea and just winds up on Cloud9 almost accidentally. It's not going to happen. So with all that said, what's the alternative? Well, it's simple. The same thing that some analysts and commentators have been saying for years now. NA teams need to develop NA talent. We might get a few amazing imports every now and again, but the future of this region and this league relies on players having a path to the pro leagues in their own region. That means the region needs to find ways to combat the weakness of NA solo queue, which has been less competitive than the bigger servers for a long time. It needs to find ways to harness mechanically strong young players and teach them the fundamentals of macro and competitive play. Tons of smart, well-meaning people in NA have tried to create systems for players to succeed here, from scouting combines to Champions Queue to off-season in-house tournaments organized by Core JJ himself. But if young players never get a chance to play in the LTA, they'll never reach the highest level and they'll never help push the region forward. And moreover, I think teams need to be willing to develop these players once they sign them too. It's too often that you get players like Dokla, who enters the league on weaker teams, doesn't get immediate results, and then languishes in tier 2 for far too long. And for every Dokla that eventually makes their way back to the top, I can think of so many promising players that just moved on to other career paths instead. So here's the bottom line. If Impact doesn't find another team, I think a lot of long-time fans, myself included, will miss him. But I'll be kind of disappointed if Liquid turn around and then replace him with another import, chasing short-term gain. It may only be September, but North America is, in effect, already in the off-season. I really hope that they use this time to not only think about what will help them win in February, but what will help them win for years to come.